I'm convinced that cheap Thailand living is a myth, at least in 2023. And while it might have been true back in the day, when people were buying condos for under $40,000, or even renting places for under $400 per month, those days are over. Now, if you're interested in moving to Thailand, or you're just curious about how much it actually costs to live here, then this video is for you. Welcome to our channel, where we discuss all things Thailand and help you to make informed decisions about living, retiring, or investing in Thailand. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so you get notified every time we publish a new video. So let's jump right into it. The cost of living in Thailand is rising, no doubt. In fact, prices have increased significantly over the past few years, especially when it comes to real estate. Many people moved to Thailand because they heard stories from digital nomads who visited Thailand back in the day when they had full-on bars on Khao San Road serving up buckets of beer for $2.50. But those days are long gone. Now the cost of living in Thailand is almost on par with the cost of living in America. There's several reasons why the cost of living in Thailand has increased. One reason is simply the inflation that affects the entire world. Another reason is the government has stopped selling land to foreigners. Therefore, there's not a lot of inventory on the market, which drives up the price. And lastly, more people than ever are moving to Thailand, which also puts upward pressure on the cost of living. So how much does it really cost to live in Thailand? Well, that depends on your lifestyle, but here's a general guide to show you what it costs to live comfortably in Thailand. Rent or buy a place. So one of the biggest expenses when moving to another country is usually rent or buying a home. There are many options when it comes to finding a place to live in Thailand, from luxury condos in Bangkok to a bungalow in the mountains of Chiang Mai. The location and size of the property will affect the price. If you want to rent a condo in the city, expect to pay anywhere from $600 to $2,000 per month. If you're looking for something more rural, you can find places for less. It's important to note that most rentals in Thailand require a minimum 3-month rental period. So if you're only going to be here for a short time, you'll need to book a hotel or Airbnb. Purchasing property in Thailand is also an option. However, foreigners cannot own land. Therefore, you'll need to purchase a condo or a house on land that is owned by a Thai citizen. This isn't a big deal, as Thai laws require the developer to set up a Thai company to own the land and then sell condos to foreigners. However, it's good to know up front that you can't own land in Thailand. Utilities and services. Once you've found a place to live, you'll need to consider your utilities and services. Electricity, water, and internet are essential services that you'll need to budget for. On average, electricity costs around 7 baht per kilowatt hour. Water is around 40 baht per unit, and internet is around 800 baht per month for 100 megabits per second. However, these prices can vary depending on your location and usage. Food. Groceries and eating out can be expensive in Thailand, especially if you're not careful. If you shop at the local markets, you can find fresh produce and other goods for reasonable prices. Eating out at restaurants can also be affordable if you choose the right places. However, if you dine at tourist hotspots or fancy establishments, expect to pay higher prices. To save money on food, shop at local markets and street food stalls. These places offer authentic Thai cuisine at reasonable prices. Additionally, cooking at home can help you save money on dining out. With the availability of fresh ingredients at local markets, you can enjoy home-cooked meals without breaking the bank. Transportation. When it comes to transportation in Thailand, there are several options available. Taxis, tuk-tuks, motorbikes, and cars are common modes of transportation. However, it's important to note that taxi prices can be expensive, especially if you don't negotiate beforehand. Tuk-tuks are a popular choice for tourists, but locals generally use them for short distances. Motorbike taxis, known as songthos, offer an affordable way to travel within cities. They are metered, but the rates can be higher during peak hours. For longer distances, buses and trains are available. Buses are an economical option for traveling between cities, but the journey can take longer than expected. Trains are another affordable choice, especially for medium to long distance travel. They offer a comfortable and scenic ride. However, it's important to book tickets in advance as they can sell out quickly. If you plan to travel frequently throughout Thailand, consider getting a car. While the initial investment can be significant, owning a car provides flexibility and convenience. Plus, gas prices in Thailand are relatively low compared to many countries. If you're planning to drive in Bangkok, keep in mind that parking can be challenging and costly. Personal care and entertainment. Personal care services such as haircuts, manicures, and massages are readily available in Thailand. However, prices can vary depending on the establishment and location. To save money, consider visiting local barbershops or street food stalls for haircuts and massages. For entertainment, there are various options such as visiting temples, exploring markets, and enjoying nightlife. Thailand offers a vibrant nightlife scene, especially in cities like Bangkok and Pattaya. However, it's important to be aware of the costs involved, especially when it comes to alcohol consumption. Bars and clubs can get crowded and expensive, especially on weekends. Consider visiting local bars and restaurants for a more authentic and affordable experience. Healthcare. Healthcare in Thailand is generally affordable, especially for routine checkups and treatments. However, the cost can increase for specialized procedures and surgeries. The public healthcare system is available to all residents and offers quality services at low prices. However, waiting times can be long. Private hospitals cater to both locals and tourists, providing advanced facilities and shorter wait times. These hospitals are generally more expensive than public hospitals, but still offer reasonable prices. Other expenses. Besides the expenses mentioned earlier, there are some others to consider when budgeting for life in Thailand. Clothing, for example, can be affordable if you shop at local markets or discount stores. However, prices can increase at shopping malls and brand name stores. Personal items such as toiletries and cosmetics are widely available in Thailand, but prices can vary depending on where you shop. You can find affordable options at local stores or drugstores, but expect to pay more for name brand products. Taxes. Foreigners living in Thailand do not need to pay income tax on their worldwide income. However, they are responsible for paying taxes on their gains from the sale of Thai assets. Also, if you run a business in Thailand, you'll need to pay corporate income tax. Non-residents are taxed on income sourced in Thailand. A non-resident alien is someone who has lived in Thailand for less than 180 days in the previous year. Visas. Depending on your nationality, you may require a visa to enter and stay in Thailand. Some countries have visa-free agreements with Thailand, allowing their citizens to stay for a certain period without a visa. However, most nationalities require a visa to enter the country. The type of visa you need depends on the purpose of your visit, whether it's tourism, business, or retirement. Visa requirements and fees vary, so it is important to check with the Thai embassy or consulate in your home country well in advance. So how much does it cost to live comfortably in Thailand? Based on our research, it costs roughly $1,800 to $3,000 per month to live comfortably in Thailand. This amount covers basic expenses such as accommodation, utilities, food, transportation, personal care, and entertainment. Of course, the actual cost can vary depending on your lifestyle and spending habits. Some people can live more modestly and spend less, while others may choose to live more lavishly and spend more. Ultimately, the cost of living in Thailand is becoming more expensive each year. The cost of living in Thailand is no longer the cheap lifestyle that many people once thought it was. While it is still possible to live affordably in the country, it takes some planning and budgeting. By following the tips and advice shared in this video, you can make the most of your money and enjoy all that Thailand has to offer. I've been living in Thailand for almost 2 years now, and in today's video, I'm going to answer a question that I get asked all the time. Is Thailand living up to its reputation of being really affordable? As someone who has lived here for almost 2 years, I think I have a pretty good idea about what it costs to live in Thailand and whether or not it is actually affordable. So if you want to know how much does it cost to live in Thailand, stay tuned, because we gonna dive into the numbers and everything else you need to know in this video. The first thing I want to say is that it depends. It depends on your lifestyle. It depends on where you live. It depends on whether you live alone or with family. There are so many factors at play when it comes to how much your living expenses are going to be. But I'm going to do my best to break down the average cost of living in Thailand and show you what you can expect if you decide to move here. One of the biggest draws to Thailand for digital nomads, remote workers and retirees alike, is the affordability of living here. Now I am going to try and look at the cost of living from the perspective of someone who is not working. So let us talk about some of the big ticket items first, and then I'll go over some of the smaller stuff. Let's talk about housing. It really depends on what you're looking for. If you want to be close to the action in Bangkok, Chiang Mai, or some other popular city, you're going to have to pay more than if you're willing to live further outside of town. A studio apartment in the city can easily be 20,000 baht per month, 30,000 baht, 40,000 baht. And if you want something larger, like a 2-bedroom condo, that's going to set you back even more. That being said, if you're willing to live further out of town, you can find some great deals. For example, there's a place where I'm living right now. It's a 2-bedroom condo, and it's 8,000 baht per month. It's located about 20 minutes outside of town. But if I were to move into a 1-bedroom apartment in the city, it would be closer to 20,000 baht. So really, it just depends on what you're looking for and where you want to live. The further you're willing to live away from the hustle and bustle, the less expensive your housing is going to be. I'd say if you're on a budget, you can easily find a place to live in Thailand for around 10,000 baht per month. Another big expense is food. In general, Thai food is very affordable. You can get a basic meal at a restaurant for 50 baht. And if you go to a more upscale place, it might cost you 100 baht. But it really depends on where you eat. I would say that if you eat out every day, you could easily spend 500 baht per day on food. But if you're more careful, you could easily cut that in half. If you cook your own meals, your food expenses will be much lower. Overall, I would say that food is one of the most affordable things in Thailand. And if you're on a tight budget, you can easily live off of 300 baht per day. Now let's talk about transportation. Taxis and tuk-tuks are pretty expensive, but if you use ride-sharing services, it's much more affordable. Ride-sharing services are readily available in most major cities in Thailand. They're usually pretty reliable, and if you split a ride with a friend, it's a great way to get around. I've used them all over the country, including in Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Phuket, Krabi, and they're usually pretty reliable and very affordable. However, it is worth noting that prices can vary depending on the time of day and how far you're traveling. During peak hours and weekends, prices tend to be higher due to increased demand. But overall, it's still a very affordable way to get around. There are also local services which operate within certain provinces. These services are usually a little bit cheaper than the ride-sharing services. So if you're in a pinch and want to save a few baht, they're definitely worth checking out. I've used them in places like Chiang Mai, Phuket, and Krabi, and they work pretty well. However, they aren't as widely available as the ride-sharing services. One last thing to keep in mind is that it is always a good idea to negotiate a price beforehand with taxis and tuk-tuks. This is especially important if you're traveling long distances. If you don't have a local SIM card with data, It can be helpful to use a translation app to make sure that you read both on the same page. Next is entertainment. How much do you spend on entertainment each month? If you're going to bars and clubs every night, then your expenses will be higher. But if you're more low-key and prefer to stay in and watch Netflix, then your expenses will be lower. That being said, Thailand offers a lot of affordable entertainment options. Movie theaters are very cheap, and you can get a ticket for as low as 50 baht. If you're willing to see an older movie, mini golf is also very popular in Thailand, and it is another affordable activity that you can enjoy with friends. Overall, I would say that entertainment is one of the least expensive things in Thailand, and it really depends on your personal preferences. Utilities are another big expense for people living in Thailand. Electricity, water, internet, and cable TV can add up quickly. However, it's possible to save money by being mindful of your usage and taking advantage of discounts. Most utility providers offer discounts for online payments, and some even offer discounts for customers who use solar power. Healthcare is another big expense for people living in Thailand. Private hospitals can be expensive, but there are ways to save money. One option is to purchase health insurance that covers the cost of hospital stays and medical procedures. Another option is to visit one of the many free clinics that are located throughout the country. These clinics offer basic medical services at no cost to patients. In addition to these options, it's also important to take advantage of preventative care. By staying healthy and avoiding illness, you can save money on expensive medical treatments down the road. The cost of living in Thailand varies greatly, depending on where you live and what kind of lifestyle you lead. However, it is generally much lower than in Western countries. If you're on a tight budget, you can easily live off of 1,000 baht per month. If you're living comfortably, you should budget around 2,000 baht per month. Of course, these are just averages and your actual expenses may vary. However, these figures should give you a general idea of how much you can expect to spend if you live in Thailand. I've lived in Thailand for almost 2 years now, and I absolutely love it here. It's a beautiful country with friendly people and a lot to offer. I've been able to experience all of the amazing things that Thailand has to offer while living on a budget, and I think anyone can do the same. Whether you're interested in learning about the Thai culture, enjoying the stunning natural scenery, or simply relaxing on one of the many beaches, Thailand has something for everyone. No matter what brings you to this country, I hope that my guide has helped you better understand what it costs to live here. So we are in an interesting time right now where there is so much discussion about the cost of living. Everybody says it's really high, and I hear people say that all the time here in Thailand. And I think for a lot of us that have been living here for a long time, we tend to just brush it off and go, yeah, whatever. But I think it's actually time we take some time to investigate this, because it's starting to get out of hand. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's me. Welcome to my channel. This is an expat channel focused on Thailand and Southeast Asia. So if you like to learn about living or retiring in Thailand, make sure to subscribe. Hit that bell so you can be notified when I post new videos every week. So let's jump into this topic of cost of living. One thing that is really important that I want to highlight right off the bat is, what does the cost of living mean? Right? If you talk to 10 different people, you'll probably get 10 different answers from each one of them. You know, for example, maybe you're comparing your life in the United States to your life here in Thailand, and you're saying, wow, I pay $2,000 for rent over there, and I'm paying $800 for rent over here. The cost of living is better here. Well, yes, but if you're eating at McDonald's 5 times a week, going to Starbucks 5 times a week, drinking imported beers, buying imported meats and groceries, you're not really taking advantage of what Thailand has to offer. And in that case, your cost of living might not be that much lower than it was back in your home country. And on top of that, you also need to consider taxes. For example, in the US, you pay income tax, sales tax, property tax, and then when you buy things, They're taxed again at the sales register. Here in Thailand, you don't pay any income tax. You do pay a sales tax at the register, but that's only 7%. So overall, the cost of living is definitely lower here. But how much lower? In 2019, Nimbeo published an article called 15 Cheapest Cities in the World to Live an Expat Lifestyle. And in this article, it listed Chiang Mai as number 13. To determine where expats are living the cheapest, they surveyed over 13,000 participants in more than 174 cities worldwide. Now, of course, I would love to see this data broken down even further. Maybe we could look at Asia versus Europe, or North America versus South America. Unfortunately, I couldn't find that kind of data anywhere. But there are a few things that are really interesting about this survey. 1. It showed that the average cost of living in Chiang Mai was $1,600 per month. That included rent, utilities, transportation, food, clothing, entertainment, personal care, etc. Now that might seem pretty accurate. I know people who live like that, and they are living on less than $1,600 a month. But also keep in mind that this is the average. Average includes everybody from the person who is living in a mansion with a full-time staff to someone who is living in a small studio apartment by themselves. The other interesting thing is that it ranked the city of Bangkok at number 83, and it said that the average cost of living there was $2,500 a month. Now that sounds crazy. And again, I know plenty of people who are living in Bangkok on less than $2,500 a month. But once again, that is the average. So that's everything from the most expensive areas to the cheapest. And I think that's one of the problems with the way we collect data, the averages. It doesn't really give you a clear picture. Another issue is that since this was collected in 2019, I don't think it represents what's happening right now in 2022, because so much has changed. Inflation in Thailand went from 0.69% in 2019 to 7.36% in 2022. And of course, this is affecting everybody. Let's look at this from the perspective of someone who lives in a condo in Bangkok. Let's assume that this person is working remotely. They have an income. They don't have to worry about money. They just want to enjoy their golden years here in Thailand. Maybe they have health issues and they can't travel too much, so they want to stay close to good hospitals. Let's say they're looking for a one-bedroom condo in Sukhumvit, which is a central area of Bangkok. Back in 2019, they could easily find places for around 20,000 baht per month, which converts to roughly $600. Fast forward to 2022, and those same condos are renting for anywhere between 25,000 to 30,000 baht, or $750 to $900. So that is already an increase of $250 to $300. On top of that, if they're living in a condo, they're probably going to want to use the condo facilities. You know, maybe the swimming pool, the gym. And during COVID, these facilities were closed for months and months and months. And a lot of people who were living in condos were complaining that the condo fees kept going up, but the services and the facilities were not available to them. And when they finally opened up again, a lot of people found that the cost of electricity had skyrocketed. Take a look at this chart. It shows the average cost of electricity in Thailand over the last 10 years. You can see that in 2011, the average was 10 baht per kilowatt hour. Fast forward to today, it's 30 baht per kilowatt hour. So that's an increase of 20 baht per kilowatt hour, or an increase of 200%. So to recap, our hypothetical retiree is already paying 250 to 300 more in rent, and they repaying 200 more in electricity. But of course, electricity isn't the only utility that's gone up. Water is another one. Let's take a look at this chart. It shows the average cost of water in Thailand over the last 10 years. In 2011, the average was 18 baht per unit. Fast forward to today, it's 34 baht per unit. So that's an increase of 16 baht per unit, or an increase of almost 90%. Now let's take a look at internet. When I first moved to Thailand, I paid 400 baht for 5 megabits per second. Today, I pay 900 baht for 10 megabits per second. But that's not even the worst one. Check this out. This is the average cost of gas in Thailand over the last 10 years. You can see that in 2011, the average was 15 baht per kilogram. Fast forward to today, it's 45 baht per kilogram. So that's an increase of 30 baht per kilogram, or an increase of 200%. You know, there's a lot of things that are getting more expensive here in Thailand. A lot of us have noticed that food prices have been going up, especially over the last year. You know, especially if you're living on the coast, you've probably noticed that the price of seafood has been going up. Now you might be thinking, why are you telling me all this? I thought this was supposed to be a positive video. You know, I thought we were supposed to be talking about how cheap Thailand is, how it's a great place to retire. Well, I agree. It is a great place to retire. It's still a great place to live. But I think we have to be honest about the fact that the cost of living is increasing. And I think we need to talk about it, because if we don't, things will continue to go up and up and up, and eventually it won't be affordable anymore. And we don't want that to happen. So I think there are 3 things that we can do to combat this. No. 1 is we can learn to accept that things will never be the same again, that this is the new normal. We can complain and cry about it, or we can learn to adapt to the new environment. No. 2, I think it's really important to have a budget and live on a budget, even if you don't have to. You know, even if you have a comfortable income, learning to live on a budget, I think it's a great skill, and it's something that we should all be doing. No. 3, I think it's really important to be smart about where we live. You know, maybe we need to move away from the tourist areas, maybe somewhere where it's a little bit cheaper, but we can still enjoy life and enjoy the things that we love to do. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the cost of living here in Thailand? How has it changed over the last few years? Do you think it's still affordable? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Subscribe so you get notified when I post new videos every week. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button below or by becoming a patron. I appreciate all your support. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.